Life can throw crazy curveballs your way, and you never know what tomorrow will bring, but one thing you can do is know that you can always try to be prepared. Pretty and Prepared is a podcast hosted by me, Pamela Valdez, all about being the best version of yourself while preparing for the life you want and deserve. With this podcast, we are targeting millennials, content creators, students, and creative individuals looking to gain insight on all things social media, building your career from the ground up, landing internships, secrets to working with brands, and so much more. So tune in every Monday at 8 a.m. for a brand new episode. Hello guys, welcome to episode 1 of Pretty and Prepared, a podcast hosted by me, Pamela, all about being the best version of yourself while preparing for the life you want and deserve. Today, we are talking all about me, my journey on social media, my life, my relationship, my family, being a content creator, and just everything that you guys may not know about me because my life is so much more different than what I share online. And outside of this podcast, I am currently a college student. I'm a junior at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. So I balance content creation, a part-time job, internships. I run my fashion blog called Glamour and Guide, as well as my social media agency called Valdez Agency. And there are just so many things that I've learned over the past few years, not just within social media, but also the internship industry. And I've picked up quite a few things on networking, how to build yourself up, healthy habits, and getting out of your comfort zone. So since today is episode 1, all about getting to know me, I feel like the intro monologue kind of gave a pretty brief overview on who I am and what I do, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into that because I know that even though it may seem like I show a lot of my life online, there's actually so much that I don't really talk about, including things that I do when I'm not on my phone. And I don't know, maybe sometimes some people may find some of this stuff more interesting than what I actually do show online. So let's get right into it. So for starters, I am 20 years old. I'm a Gemini. I was born on June 18th, 2002, and I have 2 younger siblings, a 17-year-old sister named Gianna and a 14-year-old brother named Mario. And our parents were born and raised in Dominican Republic, and then in high school, they moved here, began their life, and now fast forward 20 years later, I am in college just trying to make my way around, and I live in New Jersey. However, I am a student at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, and I commute to school 3 times a week, unfortunately, but the commute isn't too bad on some days. I am also studying fashion business management, and I actually just got my associate's degree in May, and in December 2023, I'm hoping to get my bachelor's degree, which is very exciting because I just want to hop right into the fashion or social media industry. Like, I am ready to graduate. I feel like I've done so many internships that I'm going to dive into, and I'm just ready to go into like my job, my career. I also have a boyfriend, forgot to mention, he is so amazing. His name's Kevin, and this summer is actually going to be our 5-year anniversary, which is so insane because we just had our first vacation together last summer. We went to Paris, and it was such a dream. And we also hit different cities like in the south of France, and we truly just lived our best lives. And he really is just like everything I could ever want in a partner and a boyfriend. Literally adore him. He's my biggest supporter, and he's always been my biggest supporter from day one with social media when I started doing it. And I truly don't know where I would be without him and my sister. Like, they are really my backbones and my entire support system. So moving on to social media now, I have always loved YouTube and social media and just the entire influencer culture ever since I was in middle school. And before it was even called like influencers, I would just call everyone YouTubers or Instagram models. And I was always super insecure of myself during this time. And I still am when it comes to certain things, like even to this day. But from the beginning, like I always knew I loved social media, and I was just so fascinated by everything, and I loved editing videos. I used to have an iPad when I was younger, and I would shoot like movie trailers and just fake little movies using either the actual iMovie app, or I would use this app called Video Star. And that was really how my love for editing and all of that just really came to life. Like, it's been like this ever since I was very young. That's a little bit of my childhood. Now, moving fast forward, like all the way to January 2020, I started applying for remote internships, and the first one that I ever landed was for a magazine called She's Single Magazine, and I will never forget them because they are truly the people that gave me the start in this industry. Like, this was the first internship that was remote that I ever landed in my entire life, and even though it was unpaid, I was able to learn so much from them. This was right before COVID started, so I learned how to use Zoom. I created interview questions, I interviewed women for the magazine, I created blog posts, and I just learned how the entire world of blogging and magazines and media works. Then in February 2020, I started working with another internship, like online media publication called Access by NKC, and they used to be a fashion blog, but ever since now, I recently noticed that they did transition over to now being a fashion agency. So I think all of the content that I made is definitely just archived and just not even available anymore, but I used to write blog posts for them, and one post that I actually made in particular was all about Vogue Portugal. And that ended up getting the actual attention of Vogue Portugal. So they reached out to the blog and they asked to talk to me directly if I wanted to have an interview with them, just to specify and correct some of the details that I mentioned within my post, because a lot of it was inaccurate, because it was just things that I was literally getting from online. Like, I was a senior in high school and I was just writing about whatever I saw online about Vogue Portugal, and it just so happens that I don't know where they found it and were like, yeah, we want to interview you to talk about this. But it was still very insane because I was a senior in high school talking to an editor from Vogue Portugal. Like, how does that even happen? Then, because I'm just crazy and a insane workaholic, I applied to my third internship within the same year. This is now March 2020, and I was a social media manager intern with Julia Lang, who is a business owner for the brand Veert, and she's so amazing. I'm still friends with her to this day. She's been featured on Forbes and a bunch of other really awesome companies, and like I said, I'm still really grateful to be in contact with her. And to this day, this was one of the hardest internships that I've ever done, was working for her, because being a social media manager is not a joke. Like, you may see on TikTok that these people make a lot of money being a social media manager, and they deserve every single penny of that, because it is not easy. Like, I remember I would have to set alarms for when certain brands would be posting. I had to engage in all of the comments. I had to be super active. Like, it is a lot of work to be a brand manager. Skipping over to now, September 2020, I interned for another brand, and it was called Bonvu. They are a Parisian-inspired eyewear brand based in New York, and I was their social media marketing specialist. It wasn't really anything that special. I just applied. I got some experience. They wanted me to stay for an extra 3 months, but I was like, I just want to try something new. Then finally in November 2020, I got my very first retail job ever as a seasonal sales associate at Michael Kors, and to this day, that job was one of my favorite jobs that I've ever had in my entire life, because not only was I actually fully immersed in the fashion world and like that whole industry, but I was able to sell things that I actually loved. Like, I love handbags, wallets, purses, shoes, clothing, like you name it, anything that has to do with fashion, I love it. And that was why I loved that job so much, because I was around bags and wallets and shoes all day, and I just got to convince people to come and buy them, and that was always just so fun for me. So when they let me go after a few months, I was so sad because I wanted to stay with them, but they never ended up calling me back to see if there were any positions actually open outside of seasonal, so that was kind of upsetting. Then in May 2021, I actually got my first real job as a front desk girly at a spa where I live, and I was actually there until January of this year, so 2023, and I ended up putting in my 2 weeks in December because I was just getting very overwhelmed with the internship that I had landed, which I will talk about very briefly right after this, but I ended up getting an internship, and it was just very conflicting, like doing the internship and then going to school all day and then running back home to do my desk job. Like, it was a lot going on, and also at this job, they were just not really respectful of like what I did outside of that job with them. Like, I remember my manager would ask me like, how much do I make from social media? And it was just very weird. Like, the dynamic was just not how it was when I first started working there. So I was like, I am done. Like, I'm out of here. I am just going to quit. And also, my internship that I'm doing right now was paying me way more than I was making at that spot anyway. So it was a win-win situation. And I got my experience working front desk. I did sales. I did the whole receptionist thing. And it was just time to pack that up and move on. Moving on to the actual part of my life where I started my blog and social media and all that stuff. So now it is around March 2020. So I'm taking it a little bit back to before I got my job. So when COVID happened, it was right around this time, and my last job before COVID, I was actually a swim instructor, which is one of the weirdest jobs that I've ever had. But I did that from December 2019 until February 2020, which again, it was very strange. Like, I don't know how I did that job, but when COVID shut down everything, I never ended up going back to work because obviously everything got canceled. And so during this time, I was having a really big existential crisis, and I was talking with my sister every day. I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. Like, I feel like everything is just going by so quickly, and this time of uncertainty is just making me have anxiety about everything in my life. And I told her that I had just gotten accepted into my dream college, which is FIT, and I felt like I was going into college with no experience at all whatsoever, and I just knew all of the girls there were going to have so much more experience than me, and that is so not true. Like, there's people that I know to this day, as I'm a junior in college, that have never done an internship in their life, and I just feel like if I could tell high school me to just relax and chill out, I totally would. And I'm actually going to do a whole episode on like advice to high school me, because I feel like if there are other creators out there that follow my content and are younger and maybe want to hear this, it can definitely help. But anyway, so I talked to my sister and I ended up coming up with this idea to start my fashion blog, which is now Glamour and Guide. That is how my baby was born, and this was literally all happening because I had a huge existential crisis. All of quarantine, I worked on my blog. I did this literally March, April, May, and then in June, when I graduated high school and I began starting to take social media seriously, I launched my blog, Glamour and Guide, and that summer, I specifically remember I pitched myself to hundreds of brands. Like, I pitched myself to so many people, and I was doing this because number one, like, I obviously wanted to see if any brand would be open to any gifting, and number two, I wanted to just start dipping my feet in the waters, learning to email and DM brands. And again, I was doing this all on my own. I was not looking at anyone else on social media and seeing who can I get inspiration from. I was truly just using my blog as a way to get brands to want to work with me. So I would reach out to these brands and I would say, hey, I have a fashion blog called Glamour and Guide. I would love to work with you guys and create a post on my blog in exchange for you guys sending me one of your products for free. And one of the most pivotal moments during this whole time that actually made me realize, like, okay, wait, this can actually be something. I was definitely over exaggerating it at the time, because now that I'm looking back at it, I'm like, girl, what were you thinking? But this brand in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is close to where I am, I had reached out to them. They are a jewelry brand, and they were like, we are not doing gifting at the moment. However, we would love for you to come in and chat with you and, you know, get to know what you do. And that kind of gave me that pivotal moment of like, okay, wait, there are people who respect content creators, respect influencers in this industry. I am basically a nobody right now. And the fact that they were like, you can come in and we can chat and get to know you, made me excited, because I was like, these people want to build a relationship with me. And that is so important as a content creator, is that you don't want to just work with brands and then be done. You want to actually build a relationship with them to, over time, have them know you and then, you know, want to continue to work with you on projects. This exact summer, like the summer of 2020, was also the first summer that I never worked a job. I had ended up telling my mom, I was like, listen, I'm going to college in August. I have been working literally every summer since I was 14, which is true. I used to be a summer camp counselor, and I would just do so many little random jobs. I did retail, like I did a bunch of different things, and I just told my mom, listen, this summer I just want to have off. I will save my money. Like, I literally will not spend a lot. I will just do me, be home, and I'm fine with not making money. And my mom didn't know that during this time, the only reason why I was saying that is because I knew that I was going to be taking content creation seriously that summer, but I didn't want to tell her that because obviously, like, this was 3 years ago. She was not going to understand at all what I wanted to do. But in my mind, I was like, this summer I'm taking it seriously, and I'm going to go out with my sister every single week, and we are going to get content done. I also remember, like, very specifically, my sister and I would bike to the park at like 11 a.m. We would set up a fake picnic and take photos, and then we would bike back home because number one, I didn't have a license or a car, and number two, went out like very early in the morning to do my content because it was so embarrassing to do content in a town where everybody knows everybody. And I was like, if someone from my high school sees me in a park at 11 a.m. shooting content, they're literally gonna blast me like online and be like, who does she think she is? So I would make sure to get all my content done super early during the day because I did not want anybody that I knew to see me doing this. A few months later, it is now, I think, like, October 2020, and I ended up getting my first paid Instagram deal, which was so insane, and it was literally $20 for an Instagram in-feed post. And again, this was like the second pivotal moment for me in my life that I was like, wait, I just started social media back in June, it's already October, and this brand wants to work with me. And obviously I thought that it was fake at first, but then I looked up the brand, I saw that they were actually trying to hire creators for this NJ. If you don't live in NJ, it's New Jersey. So I was like, okay, wait, they're hiring specifically New Jersey based creators. So I definitely fit the model because I had NJ in my bio. So I knew that they were definitely legit because they were reaching out to me. And that was in October. So in January, they reached out to me again and they were like, now we want to do the same thing, but we'll give you $100. And then they reached out to me again in May and they were like, we're going to bump it up to $300. And this was still within my first year of being a content creator. So I was absolutely shook. I was like, how am I going from $20 to $100 to $300? Like, it was absolutely insane. And this was just the moment for me that was like, all of this hard work is paying off because people are noticing me and they actually want to work with me. I am now in college at this point, and social media was starting to go very well for me, and I didn't actually start using TikTok until halfway into my first year of college. So this was March 2021. And I decided to start using TikTok because, funny enough, I actually saw this girl that I knew blowing up on TikTok. She had posted, I'm not even kidding, like 3 videos, and I saw that one of them had over 100,000 views. And my immediate thought was, if she can do this, I can 100% do it. So from that day on, I was like, I'm going to start posting content. Like, I literally don't care. Even if I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it. And just her blowing up made me kind of have a little bit of motivation for myself because I was like, I can totally like do this. So I started off by stacking shoe boxes on top of each other in my room as a fake tripod, and the lighting was absolutely terrible because my room is like in the basement, so there's no windows and I literally like never have light, so the lighting was already just disgusting. I had no confidence and I was just so scared of people in my town judging me. So I let this shame and this guilt get to me for the longest time, and I gave up for a few weeks because my videos were flopping and I was like, this is so embarrassing. So I let all this stuff get to me, and then for a few weeks, like, I just didn't post and I was not active at all. And because this guilt got to me, I was seeing other people be really successful, and again, it was getting to me. I was comparing myself, and one day I was like, you know what, I'm not going to give up. It's way too early in the game, and I'm so glad that I didn't and that I saw the potential and believed in myself, because once I started posting, that exact week in April, after I was inactive for like 3 or 4 weeks, I made a video on how to become an affiliate with Pretty Little Thing. And when I did that, it ended up blowing up. I think I got like over 300,000 views in like the first few weeks. And it made me realize, like, okay, people want to be educated on how to land brand deals and how to work with brands. And since I already had this experience built up from DMing and emailing and messaging brands on Instagram, I was like, people will definitely want to know like how I do this. And so very early on, my content was all about how to write emails, how to pitch yourself to brands, how to get collaborations, how to get paid collabs, working with agencies and influencer platforms, how to DM a brand, what is a media kit, how to make a media kit, email signatures, finding brand emails, like you name it, I have made a video on it, and they did so good. Then I started branching out eventually into more lifestyle, beauty, self-care content, and I slowly was tapping back into the original content that I always wanted to do from the beginning, which was fashion-based videos, obviously because I go to fashion school. But when I saw that those weren't really doing that well, I got very discouraged. I continued doing the educational videos on how to work with brands, and then, you know, every now and then I would just sprinkle in like a little bit of fashion videos. And Over the following months, my brand deals continued to get higher and higher, and I was now making 4-figure months off of social media, which is more than any other job I've had in my entire life. And like I mentioned earlier, I've been working since I was 14. So now, fast forward to February of last year, 2022. I was at work at my front desk job, and I got an email from Revlon saying that they were going to be launching their 5-in-1 concealer with a coffee truck in a park in New York. And they were like, if you want to come and, support the launch and get some free makeup and some goodies. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I almost fainted, because this was essentially like my first brand invite, and I was so confused because I was like, how did Revlon find out about me? I had less than 15,000 followers on TikTok, and I think I had less than 3K on Instagram. So it just really made me realize, like, okay, anything is possible. And I just remember the day of the Revlon event, like, it was such an insane event. I got so many likes on that photo, and I already had very little followers. So whenever I got like over 300 likes, I was like, this is attracting people's attention. I had a bunch of people from my hometown like commenting on it. My boyfriend even reposted it, and he was like, this is my famous girlfriend. Like, ever since that day, it was just absolute insanity, because I was like, I'm actually doing this. After February was just when everything started going insanely uphill for me, and 2022 was truly one of the best years of my entire life. Like, I will never not say that. And some of the highlights of that year was I landed a commercial with Home Depot to promote their dorm hacks video. I was featured on a few podcasts. I got featured in my town's newspaper. I got signed with my current social media manager. Her name is Gigi, and I literally manifested that, because when 2022 started, I wrote down all of my goals for the year, and I was like, I want to get a manager. And again, at this point, I think I had just hit 10,000 followers. So getting a manager was like so far out of reach, because it was like, girl, what do you need a manager for? You have 10,000 followers. So landing a manager was just so insane, and just the way that it happened was so awesome. I also hit 20,000 followers on TikTok in 2022. I hosted some online webinars about content creation. I've had Fabletics feature me in an Instagram post. Nikon invited me to an event, and they also posted me. I've worked with some insane brands like Clinique, Valentino Beauty, Maison Margiela Fragrances, Prada Beauty, Amazon, Giorgio Armani, Tommy Hilfiger, Urban Outfitters, HBO Max. Like, I've worked with so many insane brands, and the best part of this all is that I've met so many amazing content creator friends, and some of these girls are definitely going to be featured on my podcast, so it's definitely stay tuned for that. To kind of summarize this episode, what is my life now? So I currently intern for a skincare brand in New York as their content / like social media PR intern. And I'm also a Victoria's Secret Pink campus rep, which is insane and something that I never thought it could happen. I am the first rep ever to be hired for FIT, and that is something that I'm very grateful and proud of. I've also interned for almost 8 or 9 brands. I haven't mentioned all of them within this episode because we would be here for a very long time, but if you guys want to know like all the brands that I've ever interned for and just like what I've learned from them, I could do a whole episode on that. And I'm also really hoping to graduate earlier this year and start my career. I started my YouTube channel back in November, and I've been super consistent on there. I've been growing a lot with subscribers. Around this time, I think I'm at like 580, which I think is pretty good growth because I was at less than 400 a few months ago. So I'm very proud of myself, and I also have been launching this podcast, which I'm very excited to take you guys more in depth on navigating life and being prepared for what has thrown at you, exclusive interviews with amazing people in different industries and so much more. So my main takeaway for this episode is that if you have a dream, no matter how big, just know that you can do it, and that if no one else is going to be there for you to tell you that you can do it, just know that I am standing here and I'm rooting for you, because I faced everything that I went through alone, and I had no older sister or a mentor to help me or keep me going when I was really shy and scared. And you never know where life can take you, and the life that you want, that you think is so out of reach, is so much more closer than you think. All you need to do is believe in yourself, and you are going to make it. So even if it seems silly, and even if no one is on your side, even if no one wants to see you do it, trust me, you could do it. Thank you guys so much for listening to Pretty and Prepared, and make sure to tune in every Monday for new episodes at 8 a.m. and my DMs are open for any podcast episode ideas you guys have, or if you guys just want to talk, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.